The pod's emergency lights bathed Commander Jackson Caldwell's bloodied face in crimson as he forced the jammed hatch open. Terminus wasn't supposed to be habitable, yet here he was, somehow breathing its atmosphere without immediate death. The Earth Fleet report had clearly been wrong about this remote exoplanet. Caldwell winced, pressing a hand against his ribcage, probably broken, but he'd survived worse. The crash had scattered debris across a barren valley, his science vessel now little more than smoking fragments. Only his military-grade escape pod had survived relatively intact. That's when he saw it, another contrail of smoke rising beyond the ridge. Not possible, he muttered, checking his oxygen levels out of habit. The display confirmed, breathable air thin but sufficient. No other human ships were scheduled for this sector. Every instinct told him to establish a perimeter and secure his position, but something about that distant plume pulled at him. 20 minutes of painful hiking brought him to a site that defied explanation, an elegant craft of unfamiliar design, its pearlescent hull fractured across a field of black stone. Movement caught his eye, a figure stumbling from the wreckage. She collapsed as Caldwell approached. Her skin was a smooth violet, contrasting with flowing black hair that spilled across the rocky ground. Her slender form wore only what appeared to be undergarments, a white, form-fitting material that glowed faintly in the planet's amber twilight. When he reached her, he hesitated for just a moment before military training took over. "I'm here to help," he said, knowing she wouldn't understand, but hoping his tone conveyed his intentions. Her eyes fluttered open, startlingly blue against her violet skin, and widened in surprise or fear. She spoke rapidly in a melodic language before grimacing in pain. "Easy," Caldwell said, examining her injuries. A deep gash ran along her thigh and her breathing was labored. "We need shelter." The distant silhouette of structures on the horizon offered their only hope, remnants of the failed Terminus colony, abandoned decades ago during Earth's first unsuccessful expansion. Caldwell fashioned a crude stretcher from wreckage components and began the arduous journey toward the ruins, the alien woman drifting in and out of consciousness. By nightfall, he'd secured an old officer's quarters, its reinforced structure largely intact despite years of abandonment. He laid her carefully on a dusty bed and used his limited med kit to clean and seal her wound. "I'm Caldwell," he said, pointing to himself as he worked. "Jackson Caldwell." She watched him intently, her gaze calculating even through pain. When he finished treating her injuries, she reached out tentatively, touching his bare chest where his shirt had been torn away. Her fingers traced a scar that ran from his collarbone to his sternum. "Caldwell," she said slowly, her voice like soft chimes. He smiled tiredly, close enough. In the dim light of the emergency lamp, he noticed intricate markings along her shoulders, not tattoos, but something like iridescent birthmarks that seemed to shift with her breathing. Nothing in his xenobiology training had prepared him for someone like her. She spoke again, this time pressing her hand to her own chest. "Nyarai." "Nyarai," he repeated, testing the names. Something in her expression changed, surprise perhaps, at hearing her name from his lips. She nodded solemnly. Outside, Terminus's strange moons cast triple shadows across the landscape. Caldwell secured the room's entrance and settled into a chair nearby, determined to keep watch. He'd crashed on an uncharted planet with an injured alien woman who somehow looked remarkably humanoid despite her otherworldly beauty. As exhaustion claimed him, one thought lingered. In all humanity's space exploration, they'd never encountered intelligent alien life. Until now. And she was watching him with eyes that held mysteries he couldn't begin to fathom. Dawn broke over Terminus in shades of amber and gold, filtering through dust-covered windows. Caldwell awoke with a jolt, momentarily disoriented until his eyes found Nyarai. She sat upright on the bed, examining the bandage on her thigh with delicate fingers. "You shouldn't be moving," he said, rising from his chair. Nyeri looked up, her blue eyes studying him with newfound clarity. She gestured to her wound and then to him, inclining her head slightly. A thank you, he realized. Over the next 3 days, they developed a rudimentary system of communication. Nyeri proved to be an astonishingly quick learner, absorbing English words with remarkable precision while teaching him phrases from her own language. Zephyrian, she called it, speaking the word with a musical lilt that his human tongue struggled to replicate. On the fourth morning, Caldwell returned from scavenging the colony's hydroponics bay, carrying salvaged fruit that had somehow survived in the automated systems. He found Nyeri standing beside a makeshift table, her fingers tracing patterns in dust. "Star maps," she explained, using one of her newly learned words. Her vocabulary grew hourly, though her accent remained charmingly distinct. Caldwell set down his findings and examined her work. "This is Earth," he said, pointing to a familiar spiral arm of the galaxy she'd drawn. Nyeri nodded, then pointed to a different section. "Zephyria," her finger moved to indicate terminus. "Here, accident, royal transport, damaged." "Royal," Caldwell repeated, his brow furrowing. Nyeri straightened, and despite wearing only the white undergarments from her ship, now supplemented with a thermal blanket he'd fashioned into a sort of robe, she suddenly emanated unmistakable authority. "I am," she searched for the word, "princess, last of House Valisari." Caldwell stared at her, processing this information. He'd been treating an alien royal without knowing it. "Your people," she continued, her voice gaining confidence with each English word, "they are called primitive by Galactic Council. No faster-than-light travel, no quantum communication." Her expression softened. "But you help stranger, no question, no advantage." She stepped closer, the iridescent markings on her shoulders brightening. "My guard would leave human to die." "I'm a soldier," Caldwell said simply. "We don't leave anyone behind." Nyeri touched his arm, her violet fingers warm against his skin. "Tell me of Earth." That evening, as Terminus's 3 moons rose, they sat beneath the colony's shattered observatory dome. Caldwell spoke of Earth's oceans and mountains, of humanity's stumbling journey to the stars. Nyeri listened intently, occasionally asking questions that revealed her own world, a planet of crystalline cities and ancient traditions, ruled by houses whose lineages stretched back millennia. "My ship," she explained, "was attacked. Assassination attempt. Emergency protocol activated jump drive." "Who would want to kill you?" Caldwell asked. "Those who fear change," she replied. "I propose alliance with other worlds, including," she hesitated, "worlds like Earth." Caldwell understood then she was not merely royalty, but a revolutionary in her own right, seeking to overturn centuries of isolation and prejudice. As night deepened, Nyeri leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. The gesture seemed both calculated and instinctive, testing boundaries while seeking comfort. "Cavildor," she said softly, reverting to her native pronunciation of his name. "In my language, it means the one who rises." Her fingers intertwined with his. "Perhaps it is not coincidence we meet here." Caldwell felt something shift between them, a connection transcending their biological differences and the vast gulfs of space that had separated their worlds until now. "Tomorrow," he said, "we'll try to get a distress signal working." Nyeri tensed beside him. "Signal brings friends," she said, "also enemies." Under the alien stars, their silhouettes merged into a single shadow as Caldwell realized their brief sanctuary couldn't last. Whatever forces had tried to eliminate the last heir of House Valisari would not stop hunting her, and now, by association, him. But for tonight, in this moment of fragile peace, he allowed himself to wonder at the strange twist of fate that had brought them together across the immeasurable void of space. The colony's communication array loomed against Terminus's rust-colored sky, a skeletal reminder of humanity's brief presence on this world. Caldwell worked methodically, reconnecting power couplings while Nyeri watched the horizon, her posture alert despite her healing wound. There, Caldwell said, stepping back from the console. If I've got this right, we should be able to broadcast on both Earth frequencies and, he gestured to the modifications Nyeri had designed, whatever quantum band your people use. Zephyrian Royal Guard will respond first, Nyeri said. Her English had improved remarkably in just a week. But so might House Draxo's ships. The ones who tried to kill you. She nodded, her blue eyes darkening. They will not expect me with human, this gives advantage. As Caldwell initiated the broadcast sequence, a distant rumble shook the ground. They exchanged alarmed glances before rushing outside. A sleek obsidian vessel descended through Terminus's upper atmosphere, its design unmistakably different from Nyeri's crashed ship. Draxo's hunters, she hissed, her markings flaring bright with emotion. We must hide. They fled into the labyrinthine ruins of the colony, Caldwell grabbing his salvaged equipment and emergency pack. The ship landed near their position with precision that suggested advanced tracking technology. They followed transport's emergency beacon, Nyeri explained as they crouched in an underground maintenance tunnel. Very persistent. How many? 4, perhaps 5 warriors, augmented, dangerous. Caldwell checked his sidearm, standard Earth Fleet issue, powerful against human targets but untested against whatever these hunters might be. We need a plan beyond hiding. Nyeri's expression shifted to one he hadn't seen before, calculating, almost predatory. I am not only Princess Cavaldor, all Valisari trained as warriors since childhood. The first hunter found them an hour later, a towering figure in articulated armor that seemed to absorb light. Caldwell fired 3 rounds before being thrown against a wall, the impact nearly knocking him unconscious. Through blurred vision, he watched Nyeri move with impossible grace, her body flowing like liquid around the hunter's attacks. She struck precise points in the armor's joints, disabling rather than destroying. When the hunter collapsed, she retrieved a curved weapon from its belt. Pulse blade, she explained, helping Caldwell to his feet. More useful than projectile weapon here. They moved deeper into the colony, setting traps with Caldwell's military knowledge and Nyeri's understanding of Draxo's tactics. Together, they disabled 2 more hunters before reaching the colony's power core dormant, but still containing enough reactive material to create a diversion. The signal's been broadcasting for hours, Caldwell said as they worked. Your royal guard should be responding. Yes, Nyeri agreed, her fingers deftly rewiring the ancient Earth technology. Question is which arrives first, help or more hunters? As night fell, they positioned themselves in the colony's command center, a defensible position with multiple escape routes. Nyeri had changed into armor components taken from the disabled hunters, the dark material contrasting starkly with her violet skin. If we survive, she said suddenly, what then, Jackson Caldwell? He looked at her, surprised by the use of his full name. I haven't thought that far ahead. I have, she replied, her hand found his in the darkness. My world has never known Earth, your people have never known mine, perhaps that changes now. The moment was interrupted by alarms, multiple ships entering Terminus's atmosphere. It begins, Nyeri whispered, raising the pulse blade. Caldwell positioned himself beside her, their shoulders touching. Whatever came through that door, rescue or execution, they would face it together. The command center's reinforced doors buckled under sustained energy fire. Caldwell and Nyeri stood back to back, weapons raised, as the barrage suddenly ceased. Princess Nyeri Valisari, a voice called in Zephyrian. We have secured the perimeter. House Draxo's forces are retreating. Nyerai's posture remained tense. Identify yourself, she responded in her native tongue. Commander Jorith, Royal Guard 1st Division. We received your distress signal and came with all speed, Your Highness. Only then did Nyerai lower her weapon, exhaling slowly. My guard, she translated for Caldwell, we are safe now. The doors slid open to reveal a contingent of armored figures, their design more elegant than the Draxo's hunters but no less formidable. Their leader removed his helmet, revealing features similar to Nyerai's: violet skin, intense eyes, though his were golden rather than blue. His gaze fell immediately on Caldwell, narrowing with obvious suspicion. A human, he asked in accented English. Here. Commander Jorith, Nyerai said firmly, this is Jackson Caldwell of Earth. He saved my life and has fought honorably at my side. You will show him respect. The commander bowed stiffly. As you command, Your Highness, the celestial voyager awaits in orbit. The Council is most anxious for your return. Within hours, they were aboard the Zephyrian royal vessel, a ship that made Caldwell's most advanced Earth vessels seem primitive by comparison. Nyerai was immediately surrounded by advisors and medical staff, while Caldwell found himself isolated in luxurious but obvious confinement. After what felt like days, the door to his quarters opened, revealing Nyerai. She had transformed. Gone were the makeshift clothes and salvaged armor. Now she wore flowing garments of shimmering material that complemented the iridescent markings on her shoulders, which Caldwell now recognized as royal insignia. Forgive their caution, she said, entering the room. Humans are unknown elements to my people. I understand, Caldwell replied, though his tone suggested otherwise. What happens now? We approach Zephyria. The Council demands explanation for my alliance with an unregistered species. She sat beside him, her regal bearing momentarily softening. They fear what they do not understand. And what do you understand, Your Highness? He asked, the formal title creating a sudden distance between them. Nyerai touched his face gently. I understand that stars and systems may separate us, but courage and honor transcend all worlds, her voice lowered. I have declared you Kethnar, honored protector under ancient law. Well, what does that mean? It means the Council cannot dismiss you without violating traditions older than our recorded history. Her eyes held a mixture of determination and something deeper. But tradition also demands proof of worthiness. The following day, Caldwell stood in a circular chamber aboard the ship, surrounded by Zephyrian officials whose whispers filled the air like insects. Nyerai sat upon an elevated platform, her expression carefully neutral despite the tension evident in her posture. Commander Jorith approached Caldwell. The princess has invoked Kethnar for you, a human. This has never happened in our history. His tone suggested this was not a distinction to be celebrated. You must undergo the trials of valor if you wish this honor. What are these trials? Caldwell asked. 3 challenges to prove your worth. Fail and you return to Earth, never to see Zephyria or its princess again. Caldwell looked up at Nyerai, whose eyes conveyed what her royal position could not. A silent plea, a hope. I accept, he said. The first trial tested his intellect. A complex strategic simulation that pitted him against Zephyria's most accomplished military minds. Drawing on his Earth fleet training and the tactical insights Nyerai had shared during their time on Terminus, Caldwell achieved a narrow victory that left the observers murmuring in surprise. The second trial challenged his endurance, a grueling physical test in a chamber that constantly shifted its gravitational parameters. Hours later, exhausted but unbowed, he remained standing when many Zephyrian nobles would have collapsed. For the final trial, Jorith presented Caldwell with a ceremonial blade. You must now face me in combat, he announced. Not to death, but to submission. What followed was a dance of desperation against superior strength and speed. Caldwell suffered numerous cuts and bruises but refused to yield. Instead, he adapted, learning Jorith's patterns using the commander's expectations against him. When Caldwell finally disarmed the Zephyrian warrior with a technique that combined Earth martial arts with movements he'd observed from Nyeri, a hush fell over the chamber. Jorith remained kneeling, his golden eyes wide with disbelief. How? On Earth, Caldwell said, offering his hand to the commander, we learned to improvise. From her platform, Nyeri rose, her voice ringing with authority. The human has proven himself 3 times over. The ancient law is satisfied. As the council dispersed in stunned silence, Nyeri approached Caldwell. The formal distance between them remained in public, but her eyes told a different story, one of pride, relief, and promise. Tomorrow, she whispered, we reach Zephyria, and everything changes. Zephyria's crystalline spires captured the light of its twin suns, fracturing it into prismatic displays that cascaded across the capital city of Luminara. From the balcony of the royal citadel, Caldwell watched vessels of impossible design navigate between the towers with graceful precision. Overwhelming, isn't it? Nyeri asked, joining him at the railing. Though dressed in the formal attire her position demanded, she moved with the same fluid grace he'd first noticed on Terminus. It's beautiful, he admitted, like nothing I could have imagined. 6 months had passed since their crash landing. 6 months of diplomatic negotiations, cultural exchanges, and careful navigation of Zephyrian politics. House Draxos had been exposed for their assassination attempt, their leaders now facing justice under laws older than Earth's recorded history. The council convenes in an hour, Nyeri said, her tone revealing the weight of the upcoming decision. They will vote on the Earth Recognition Act. If passed, the legislation would officially acknowledge humanity as equals rather than primitive curiosities, the first step toward sharing Zephyrian technology that could revolutionize Earth's understanding of the universe. Will they support it? Caldwell asked. Many will, others fear change. Her hand found his, a gesture now familiar yet still thrilling. But they respect you, Cavaldor, the human who passed the trials, the outsider who helped expose corruption within our highest houses. Their relationship had evolved in careful, measured steps, private moments stolen between public responsibilities. Caldwell now served as Earth's first ambassador to Zephyria, while simultaneously acting as Nyeri's recognized Kethnar, a position that carried both honor and scrutiny. Whatever happens, he said, we've already accomplished more than either of our worlds thought possible. Nyeri's markings shimmered as she smiled. Do you remember what I told you on Terminus about your name in my language? The one who rises, Caldwell recalled. There is more to the ancient meaning, she said. The complete translation is one who rises above boundaries. Perhaps the prophecy was always about this moment, a human and a Zephyrian bridging worlds that never should have met. The council chamber hummed with anticipation as representatives from Zephyria's 12 great houses took their positions. Caldwell stood to one side, observing the proceedings with Commander Jorith, who had become an unexpected ally in recent months. They will resist, Jorith said quietly. Centuries of isolation do not fade quickly. Neither does prejudice, Caldwell agreed, on Earth or here. Nyeri entered last, her royal regalia capturing and reflecting light in patterns that seemed to speak a language of their own. She took her place at the center of the chamber, her voice clear and unwavering as she presented the final case for recognition. We have called humans primitive, she said, yet when lost on a hostile world, it was a human who showed greater nobility than our most honored warriors. We pride ourselves on enlightenment, yet cling to divisions that serve only to limit our potential. Her eyes found Caldwell's across the chamber. The universe is vast and largely unknown, even to Zephyria. We face threats that will require unity beyond our current understanding. Earth offers not just resources or tactical advantage, but perspective, a resilience born from struggle that our prosperity has nearly forgotten. The debate raged for hours, arguments rising and falling like tides. When the final vote came, silence engulfed the chamber as the result appeared on the central display, approval by the narrowest margin in Zephyrian legislative history. That evening, as celebrations illuminated Luminara's spires, Caldwell and Nyeri stood in a private garden within the citadel. A communication array had been established, allowing the first direct transmission between Zephyria and Earth's leadership. Your world thinks this is just the beginning, Nyeri said after the historic exchange concluded. They cannot imagine how much will change. Is that what concerns the opposition? Caldwell asked. That humans will advance too quickly with Zephyrian knowledge. No, she replied, turning to face him fully. What frightens them is not humanity's advancement, but what comes after, the possibility that our worlds might truly become one. Her meaning was clear in the way she closed the distance between them, royal protocol momentarily set aside. There are more boundaries to rise above Cavaldor, she whispered, personal ones, cultural ones. As Zephyria's moons rose above the crystalline city, casting multicolored shadows across the garden, Caldwell pulled Nyeri closer. Their journey had begun with a crash on a desolate planet, strangers from different stars. Now they stood as architects of a future neither world had dared imagine. Then we'll rise above those two, he promised, as the distance between their worlds and their hearts continued to diminish beneath the light of unfamiliar stars.